Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survivor Review, and in anticipation for A Good Day to Die Hard, which is a movie me and Sam are really looking forward to, we're planning to do some Die Hard related videos. Like, we're going to talk about the first 4 movies, review those, and review like the PS1 game Die Hard Trilogy, do a playthrough of that kind of. And to start off, I want to talk about something that a lot of people probably don't know about, because it didn't last very long. There was a Die Hard comic book series, and it only lasted 8 issues, but it was not a bad comic book series, and I want to talk about it because I have all 8 issues of the comic. It's called Die Hard Year One, and it's, well, from the title, especially if you're a comic book person, you know from comics like Batman Year One, it's a prequel. It's about his first year as a cop, and it's a really interesting comic series. I don't know why it didn't last so long. I guess it must not have been doing so good, but it's definitely a good series, especially if you're a Die Hard fan. I think you'd like it. So let's take a closer look at the comic. Now, to start off, every issue had either cover A or cover B, which are 2 different covers, and I always tried to get cover A. Some of them I don't, but except issue 1 though, issue 1 had a ton of different cover variants besides just the regular A and B. The one I got is a Graham Cracker Comics. That's the store I always go to, the comic store I always go to. This is an exclusive, limited 500 copies, and this is actually a really nice cover art. It kind of reflects that it takes place in the 70s, obviously. Go. So this is the cover art for issue 1. I'll look inside in a little bit. I'm going to go through cover art right now. Cover 2, this is cover A of cover 2. I'll tell you if I have a... Well, I'll just tell you. 2, pretty decent cover art. And issue 3, I call this comic actually kind of has a 90s kind of feel to it. I don't know, maybe it's just me, just the way the images look, it's kind of a 90s comic to it. This is again cover A. Issue 4. Right there, pretty nice cover. This is again cover A. Cover 5 is a cover I really like. This has a great kind of 70s crime movie vibe to it, which just looks awesome. 70s looking McClane. It's really cool. This is again cover A. Nice cover. It's probably one of my favorite covers. And then this is issue 6. Now this is cover B. Actually, couldn't get cover A of this one. Just that plain image. Pretty nice image. I like how I do use that Die Hard font. There actually is, if you're a Die Hard fan, you know there's actually a Die Hard font. And a lot of issues use that. Issue 7, another issue that I do have cover B. These are my only 2 cover Bs I have. 7. Kind of looks good, looks nice. And the next one is actually another cover I really like. This is the 8th and final issue. I really like this cover art. And this is cover A. So, out of all the... So I only have cover B of issues 6 and 7. I have a different one for issue 1. So yeah, now let's take a look inside the comic. Get an idea of what the artwork looks like. This one, the first story, takes place in New York City in 1976, and we are introduced to John McClane. In the first few issues, the artwork, it doesn't look a whole lot like Bruce Willis. If I show you that shot right there, no. But I'll show you as I go on. It looks a lot more like him. Yeah, I like how the colors, they're not very bright, and it kind of adds to kind of the kind of grittiness of like the 70s. So yeah, I've seen some of the other issues. The paper, even the edges aren't white; they're like kind of like a tannish color. It's a cool wide shot. Let's see. Yeah, the artwork, at least in these early ones, kind of, but as they go on, they don't. Also, at least the first story arc is actually pretty violent. The action is actually pretty well handled in the comic. So yeah, see, it actually is pretty violent, which is fine. It fits the Die Hard feel of it. Explosion. That's a cool shot. Actually, kind of looks like Willis a little bit of him shooting. And some of these kind of shots, I thought, kind of guys look right. Now, for the most part, the comics aren't that action-packed. If you're looking at this is mostly just this one issue. That's probably the most action-packed. But, guys, that actually kind of looks like Willis. But, so see, he was a cop, and then in this one, he gets promoted to a detective, which is cool. Good shot of McClane. That actually kind of looks like Willis. Yeah, all the side characters are all pretty well drawn. Yeah, some just have like really good distinctive qualities to them. Like, okay, so it's pretty well drawn comic. There is a lot of dialogue. I mean, there's a lot of like this, like narration, like throughout. That can be a little bit like annoying, especially in the early storyline, the first storyline. Kind of a lot of that, which can be a little bit annoying. You know what? What you gonna do? Okay, now that we've looked at them, I'll talk about the plots and stuff like that. And you think, oh, there's 8 issues, so you get 8 John McClane adventures? Not really. Every 4 issues is one story arc. So you only technically get 2 John McClane adventures. That's another thing why I really wish they would have kept going, because I wanted to see more of this. So, the stories is kind of something that I think is the reason why some people might not have liked it. It's not your typical John McClane adventure. It's not like, oh, terrorists are doing something there and John McClane has to go stop them. There's more to it than that. It's not as huge, because he's just a young, cop. Especially in the first story arc, he's a rookie cop. So it's not like he's going to be involved in the huge terrorist thing, which I like. Because usually when they do prequels to these big characters, they put them in the same exact thing they're going to happen in the later movies. So it feels forced. But the stories, they don't feel like a forced John McClane adventure. They feel like something that John McClane probably would have went through, like a cop would have went through back then. There's just some die-hard moments thrown in for good measure, which I like. So, the first story starts in 1976. And John McClane is a rookie cop, and the story involves these crooked cops who are working with this environmentalist who in the end takes over this yacht with this rich guy. There's this party going on in the yacht, and this rich guy is holding it, and they're taking over it because the guy's doing bad things. And in true die-hard fashion, it turns out they were mostly there for the money, which I love. And so, if you read especially if you just read the first issue, you'd be like, what the heck am I reading? This isn't Die Hard. So that's why I think might turn some people off. You have to read the whole thing. That's why I say, don't just read the first issue. Because the first issue is just you're introduced to John McClane, who's a cop, and then you're introduced to the 2 crooked cops, you're introduced to the bad guy, and they're the main focus of that issue. So, it doesn't really feel like Die Hard, but as the story arc goes on, it becomes much more Die Hard. And the ending on the yacht McClane is the only one. He's like he hid when the bad guys taking over, so he has to stop them in typical Die Hard fashion. That part's the most Die Hard part of the first story arc, and it's a fun part. It's definitely a fun moment, and because you got him like fighting off bad guys, him using the walkie-talkie in Die Hard fashion. So it's a cool introductory story, and at the end of that story, he gets promoted to detective. John McClane. So I don't know why I had to say that, but whatever. So it's a good intro story that shows, that kind of foreshadows what he's going to do in the Die Hard movies, which I like. It doesn't cram it down our throats that he's going to be Die Hard. They don't say the yippee-ki-yay catchphrase. So I really like that. It's not just a typical like cash grab prequel. It actually feels like there's a good story going on here. And it's a pretty good like crime saga that it's building on, which is really interesting. There's more like to it than just your typical like let's make a prequel about John McClane doing stuff. So the first story, it's not that great. It's an interesting story, but the second story arc, I think is like it's the best story arc. It's the most like true John McClane story, and it takes place in 1977, and it has involved this guy is holding these people hostage at this like spa kind of. And McClane and his partners is working on trying to stop the thing. And while that's going on, there's a big blackout. And in the process, the whole blackout was done so these people can go rob a bank. And it's like the whole hostage situation is kind of like a decoy, so to keep people busy while they rob stuff, kind of like Die Hard, which I love. And it's much more John McClane focused. He's the main character, like he's the main focus point of there. And there's even parts that I love where he actually has to go into an air duct in order to get in, just like Die Hard. And I love that. And it's also it reveals some backstory about him that like while it's going on, he's flashing back to when he was a little kid and he was crawling under his friend's house in order to like get a few issues of Playboy, and it kind of shows like he's done this a while, because then it shows him in Vietnam because he was in the war crawling and like a hole in the ground. I like that. Kind of ties it all back, and it was just cool seeing him in the air duct doing stuff, just classic Die Hard. And it was a much better story, I felt. I mean, it was simpler, but it just flowed better, and it was a fun story arc. So those are the only 2 John McClane prequel adventures that we got, sadly. I don't get why. I think this comic book, I think it should have went on for a little bit longer at least, because it was a great way to see like the early days of John McClane and see what led him to be as good as he was in Die Hard. And maybe he would eventually say the yippee-ki-yay catchphrase, you never know, but I definitely thought these were great stories, but I think it's that you have to read more than just one issue. And it would be, another thing would be jarring if you like go in reading like issue 4, you're going to be lost. So that's the problem. That's where I feel people might have gotten turned off by it. They might have been like, oh, Die Hard comic, and just randomly picked up an issue, and then just like we've been lost. But I think it's a good, especially if you're a fan. It works better if you're a fan. It's a great like early adventures to see where he came from, and it's more Die Hard. I love Die Hard, so it's a really fun comic books, and they're probably cheap. So if you ever see them somewhere, I say pick them up, check them out. It's a good series. I think they've been released in like trade paperback editions, with the first 4 issues in one and the next 4 issues in 2, and that works. That's better off. It's better off reading them like that because you're not like having to stop and pick up another issue. So I'd say try to pick up those. I think they're pretty cheap. So I like having individual issues. Those are cool, always cool to have. So I like having my little collection. And yeah, that's about it. It's a fun comic book series, something that a lot of people probably don't know about because it didn't last long at all. Sadly, I don't know. But anyway, it's about it. And talk to you guys later.